that because we are going to retest for this whole thing. It was miserable. I would have spent 3 times the amount of time grading than what you guys took to take the test. That tells me you don't understand it. And if you can't understand it, take the test. I can't count the 2 weeks to reteach. So here we go. The directions say on this. Use the change of base formula to evaluate. When you come in here every day, you better have your graphing calculator at your desk with you. And you better have your homework out. Okay? So, if I'm using the change of base formula, how do I write this using the change of base? Log of 135 over the log of 20, or ln of 135 over the ln of 20. Now, what does that give you decimal-wise on your calculator?
1.637.
Now, I do not want you to be looking at your worksheet from the last time we did it. I want you lazy people to get out a sheet of paper, and I want you to write down every single thing we did. Because clearly, you didn't understand the first time without me doing it. Get out a sheet of paper. Write it down.
Look it up.
Where would it be? It has to be log base 10 or log base. Was there any more?
I think she said she don't have one more.
There you go. You're welcome.
Okay. Next, number 4. It says use the properties of logarithms to simplify the logarithmic expression. Now, folks, what does that mean? Use the properties of logarithms. Whenever it says use the properties of logarithms, what it's asking you to do is expand or condense to be able to simplify it as far as you possibly can. So what that means is if I have 5e to the 6th, what do I do to this?
Put the 6 on.
Not yet.
L5 plus ln.
Quit looking at your paper from last time. Put your paper away. I just want you guys to focus on this. The only reason I have your review sheet out is so if you can't read my handwriting, you can write down the problem. I need your brains to grasp this. So, Alec, what do? Thank you. The 5 times e to the 6, that's multiplication, so I'm simply going to add them together. Do we see that, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so now what do?
Bring the 6 out.
Cancel out.
I bring the 6 out or cancel it out. It's either way, whichever way your brain thinks, right? ln of e cancels out, and I'm going to be left with the natural log of 5 plus 6. Why do I not like it when you guys write it like that?
So you want to add the 6.
Instinctively, many of you want to take 5 plus 6 and make that 11. Is that the correct thing to do?
Yeah.
No. The correct thing is to put the 6 out in front of test by addition, and you can clearly tell that you are not supposed to add those together. Do you understand that? Would I count it wrong if you left it as log base, natural log of 5 plus 6?
Yes.
I would not count it wrong as long as you guys did not combine those terms together. Do you understand that? This one right here. Number 5. The directions say, use the properties of logarithms to verify that the left-hand side is equal to the right-hand side of the logarithmic expression. This means you have to work on the left-hand side. Do you know how many of you did not do that on the quiz? Many of you took the right-hand side and condensed it down to make it equal to the left-hand side. I don't want you to condense it. I want you to expand the left-hand side and make it equivalent to the right-hand side. Now what that means is you need to use some deductive reasoning skills and say, okay, well if I'm going to break down that 24, I need to figure out what type of factors of 24 I want to use. Well, my factors of 24 are 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, and 4 and 6. Based upon that, I need to now look at the right-hand side and say, well, what did they use? Well, they have a 3 over here. This 3 over here is a dead giveaway, right? That's a dead giveaway to say, hey, I need to take factors of 24 that are divisible by 3. Okay, so that gives me 3 and 8. So I have negative natural log of 8 times 3. Now what do I do? And law of world multiplication is. Now I'm going to put parentheses around this. Why am I going to put parentheses around this? Because that negative needs to go to both the 8 and the 3. As soon as you tear that apart and make that into 2 separate logarithms, you are actually having to distribute that negative. So now, can I rewrite 8 to look any other way? Any other way?
2 to the third.
2 to the third looks good to me. And how do we know that? Well, because if we look at the right-hand side, we can make a huge conclusion about we have 3 natural log of 2. Well, that 3 goes back on that 2 as an exponent, right? Do we understand that? Which means I have 2 cubed. Well, 2 cubed is 8. Okay? Which means now I can bring that 3 out in front. So that's 3 times the natural log of 2 plus the natural log of 3. Does the left-hand side look exactly like the right-hand side? Yes. Do we understand what it means to verify? Yes or no? Number 9. Number 9 said expand each of the following. Whenever I say expand, what does that mean? Makes it bigger, longer, right? So I need to expand this not into one logarithm, but several logs put together. Do we understand that? So what do you first notice about this? It's division, and in log world division is? So this is going to be log base b of the square root of x y to the 4th minus log base b of z squared. Now what? There's multiplication there. So in log world, that is addition. Now what? You would move the exponents to front. So if I'm looking at the first one of log base b of the square root of x, what am I going to move to the front? Why am I moving a 1/2 whenever I don't have a 1/2 there?
So the square power is squared.
Because the square root is the same thing as power over root. The power is 1, the root is 2, to give me 1/2 log base b of x plus 4 log base b of y minus 2 log base b of z. This is in its expanded form. Do we understand that?
So how do you get half?
Because whenever I have the square root of x, that's the same thing as 1, 2 there. Power over root every time to give me the 1 over 2. Okay? Now, no. Sorry. Now, the next set of instructions said to condense each of the following. And the one I chose to do is number 11. If I'm condensing this thing, what do I do? So I need to work where first? Inside the parentheses, just like you would if you'd be using order of operation problems. The force comes down. This right here, addition, means multiplication. Now what? I need to put the powers back on, don't I? So I have the natural log of z times z plus 5, all raised to the 4th power, minus the natural log of z minus 5, raised to the 2nd power. Well, I would go ahead and put this power on each one of these. Why? Because I can. Natural log of z to the 4th times z to the plus 5 to the 4th minus the natural log of z minus 5 squared. Could I have distributed that z first before I put the 4 on? Absolutely. There's more than one answer to this. Okay? Now I see subtraction in log world, and what is that? Division. So this is the natural log of z to the 4th z to the plus 5 to the fourth divided by z minus 5 squared.
How do you know when you're done?
Whenever you have one log or natural log. Does that make sense?
So if you were going the opposite way, you would think.
Just like we would take a 1/7 at a time and say, hey, I have division there, so I need to pull it apart. Hey, I have multiplication here, so I need to pull it apart. So automatically I would see three things there. Okay. Number 15. Number 15 says, evaluate without using exception. You guys did relatively well on that part. You guys really did. I included that part of the test on last 9 weeks. However, the second part of the test, I did not grade because it was so atrocious. You all understand that. Why we're going back over again. So, talk to me, folks. If I have log base 10 of x, do we understand that's what it looks like? That's, well, what's the domain of that? Do I have an asymptote? What's my asymptote? Here's number. No. Asymptote. X equals 0 is my asymptote, which means it can never be smaller than what value? 0. So tell me, if I have log base 5 of negative 25, negative 25 is what type of a number? Negative. Is that legal when doing logarithms? No, because by the domain, we can tell that x has to be greater than, and negative 25 is not greater than 0, so therefore there's no solution. Do we understand that? Do we understand that, yes or no? I lost you? Okay, by definition of a logarithmic function, the graph of it looks like this, meaning it's going to get really close to 0, but it's never going to touch it. No, which means, can I have any value down here? No, where's negative 25? Which is why it's not possible. Does that make sense? Okay. Number 19. Number 19 says solve for x. I was astounded about how many of you were like, how do I do this again? What do I do? So how do I do this? I'm solving for x. So what should I do? Subtract 7. Negative 2 e to the x is equal to negative 2. E to the x is equal to 1. Huh. Could you just think a little bit and say e raised to what power has to be 1? 0. X has to be 0. You don't. If you need to take the natural log of both sides, you can do that. And when you plug natural log of 1 into the calculator, you're going to get x is equal to 0. But you should be able to go from there down to x equals 0 without any thought process required, because anything raised to the 0 power is always and forever 1. 20. 20. What do I do? Why? Because there are 3 terms, right? There are 2 different x's there. And those x's are not like terms, because an x squared is not a like term to an x, is there? Do you understand that? Think of what I just said. Is x squared and x like terms? No. So is e to the 2x and e to the x like terms? No. So therefore, we have to put this into 2 binomials. So how do I put this into 2 binomials? Can I break down e to the 2x? E to the x and e to the x. And I need a negative 5. So what does it say about my signs? They're going to be opposite. And I need factors of 5 that give me negative 4. Positive 1, negative 5. So I'm going to have e to the x plus 1 is equal to 0. And e to the x minus 5 is equal to 0.
Well, you said that equal 4.
I need factors of 5 that whenever you subtract it, will give you negative 4. Now what? Solve, subtract 1. E to the x is equal to negative 1. Now what do I do? Well, I'm still on this one. Take the natural log of both sides. So x is equal to the natural log of negative 1. Are you wanting to think a little bit here? Crazy? Oh, come on. We just talked about it. Why? It's negative. So therefore, you toss this out. Do we understand that? It's not possible. It's not in our domain. Now what? E to the x is equal to 5. So I have e is equal. As x is equal to the natural log of 5. Is that possible?
Yeah.
Yes, and what does it give you?
2609.
Do we understand? Yay or nay? Okay, why is it yay now, but on Friday, before break, it was definitely nay?
But when you're not asking us questions.
Okay, we're not going to do this problem. You are going to talk me through this and tell me step by step what you would do. Divide by 20. Subtract 100. Divide by negative 1.
Wait.
Divide by. Okay, now, is everybody with me right now?
Yeah.
What would you do, step 1? Divide by 20. Because it's attached by multiplication. So how do I get rid of it by multiplication? I just divide it. Okay. Now, I'm left with 100 is minus e to the x over 2. What do I do? Subtract 100. Which means now I'm left with negative e to the x over 2. What do I do? Divide by negative 1. Then what would you do next? I take the natural log of both sides because I'm left with e to the x over 2. So I need to get that x over 2 out. Now, I'm only telling you these steps because I know we've done this problem before. And then you guys need to start thinking in steps ahead, figuring out what you're left with.
I get like that the last step, and I don't know how to finish that problem.
You do what? You divide by negative 1.
You get e to the x over 2.
Take the natural log of both sides. If you're left with x over 2 is equal to ln of something, how do I get rid of that 2? Multiply both sides by 2.
Whoa. Hold on, so wait, get rid of the 2 first, then
Guys, this is ridiculous. You all need to be paying attention a little bit and think about this.
Dude, I'm still in Christmas mode.
You can't be in Christmas
I'm
mode.
still in, I don't.
Would you multiply, like, I get it, but it's just like.
Subtract
you multiply
100.
it too. I got that.
Quiet everyone now. Divide by negative 1. Take the natural log of both sides. And how do I get rid of that 2? Multiply everything by 2. So that's going to give you x is equal to 2 times the natural log of 75. Which is what?
I did it.
8 point.
6, 3.
Sorry, I thought you said 8.
How'd you type it in?
2 times natural log of 75.
Oh, might help with that.
I did it.
This is a very elementary problem of just simple mathematics, equations, throwing in a log. Do you understand that?
I did not put this in elementary school.
I didn't say elementary, I said an elementary problem,
Yeah,
meaning
but they call elementary school,
easier.
it's supposed to be easy.
It would be easier to figure out the
basic. Okay, 23. Now, previously I made you not responsible for the square root problems. Now I'm going to make you responsible for them. Wow, great. Okay? So, how do we go about doing these? I need to condense this thing and make it into one logarithm. So what do I do?
Just put it in subtract.
Now what?
Addition.
I gotta get rid of that log. How do I get rid of that log?
There's only one log, why do you need to get rid of it?
I don't want any log.
So,
Illegal. Why do I want a basis of 10? Because currently I have log base 10. Even though the 10's not there, it's understood to be there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make all of that problem become an exponent. Remember this? And what happens to the 10 log base 10? That cancels out. Then you're left with the 8x over 1 plus the square root of x is equal to, what is 10 squared? 100.
That's the answer.
No, honey, that's nowhere near the answer. But it sure made you think.
Multiply by.
Cross multiply. 8x is equal to 100 times 1 plus the square root of x. And I'm going to divide by 100. So I get 2 over 25x is equal to 1 plus the square root of x. I need to isolate the square root of x. What do I do? Subtract 1. So I have 2 over 25x minus 1 is equal to the square root of x. How do I get rid of the square root?
square.
I need to square not just one side, but both sides. So now I'm going to have 2 over 25x minus 1 times 2 over 25x minus 1 is equal to x. And now what am I forced to do? FOIL. 2 times 2 is going to be 4. 25 times 25 is 625 x squared minus 2 over 25x minus 2 over 25x plus 1 is equal to x.
Probably not the way to
First outer, inner, last. That's all I did there. First outer, inner, last. Now you need to combine like terms. So I have any like terms on the left-hand side? X's. So I'm going to have 4 over 625 x squared minus 4 over 25x plus 1 is equal to x. Am I done? Now you got to subtract x. So if I'm subtracting x,
Don't expect me to do something like that.
I'm subtracting 1x. If I'm subtracting 1x, I need a common denominator. So that's going to give me 25 over 25. So that gives me 4 over 625 x squared. Negative 4 and negative 25 give me negative 29 over 25x. Plus 1 is equal to 0.
Dude, I was lost a long time ago.
You lost me at. Might as well start from 4.
I foiled. 2 times 2 is 4. 25 times 25 is 625 x squared. Inner is negative 25x 2 over x. 2x over 25. Outer is negative 2x over 25. And last gives me positive 1.
Now what? Do you have to make a binomial?
Step. Because I'm subtracting 1. 1 takes on infinitely many forms, so if I need a common denominator of 25, I make that 25 over 25. If I need a common denominator of 14, I make it 14 over 4. I have an x over here, so I need to subtract x from both sides, which means I'm subtracting a 1x. One takes on many different forms when you need a common denominator. Yes?
Yeah,
That's not even pre-calculated.
I get this.
Okay. Now, this is where it's ugly because you need to factor into two binomials, but we're not going to factor into two binomials. What we're going to do is we're going to use our graphing calculator. And we are simply going to I want everybody to hit add a calculator page. Hit menu, algebra, polynomial tools, find the roots. Give me 1 minute, guys. And you're going to type in the 4 divided by 625, arrow down, negative 29 divided by 25, and then this one was a 1, and hit OK.
Wait.
And that's the polynomial you have.
On the day of the test, can you write down on the board how to get your answers?
What do you do at right here?
Type in the 2.
You gotta write it on the board.
Yeah. Then you're going
We
to
can
type
go,
in.
you hit OK, and then
It's using the quadratic formula, that's all it
Wait,
is.
hold on, what was it?
Polynomial tools,
There we
I
go.
and then find real roots.
I got you.
Polynomial.
Come on, easy.